On the night of our wedding, my husband was ordered to march to the border. Before leaving, he held my face, kissed me, and said, "Wait for me to come back." Then he left me alone in the Marquis's mansion, staring wide-eyed at a toddler. Who would have thought that after a 2-year separation, when Lin Huiji returned to the capital in triumph, he brought back a Hu woman? Wow, isn't this a standard plot in storybooks? So I readily accepted the situation. Before he could return to the mansion, I wrote a divorce letter, ready to leave and never come back, but the toddler pulled at my sleeve and asked pitifully, "Can I come with you? Anyway, you don't have a son, one more won't hurt." As a result, I had just returned to my princess's mansion when Lin Huiji ran to the emperor to complain. He said I had abducted his child and abandoned him. To reward his beloved Marquis of Zhonbei, my imperial uncle betrothed me, his beautiful niece, to him. At first, I was unwilling because Marquis of Zhonbei, Lin Huiji, was a widower, and he had a child, me, young and beautiful, going to be a stepmother to someone else's child. How could that be? So I ran to my imperial uncle and threw a tantrum, rolling around on the ground. Then, my uncle generously took out several portraits for me to choose from. First one, a dissolute playboy from an aristocratic family, with more concubines in his mansion than one could count on both hands. Second one, a mighty general wielding 2 swords, still married to his first wife. He just had a greenish face, fierce fangs, and a full beard. The more I looked, the worse they got. Scared, I burst into tears. I clung to the Empress Dowager's legs and wailed, "Grandma, your granddaughter is so miserable. I lost my mother when I was little. No one loves me, no one cares for me, Tilda." The Empress Dowager tapped my forehead, smiled, and took out another portrait. "Here, what do you think of this one?" I stared at the man in the portrait. He had sword-like eyebrows, starry eyes, and a straight nose, a truly handsome man. I unconsciously swallowed. "How tall is he?" My imperial uncle glanced at me, his tone faint. "Over 8 kai, about 2.6 meters. My eyes lit up. "Is he rich? Can he afford to support me? From a noble military family, with meritorious deeds. And he keeps himself pure and undefiled. Perfect, absolutely perfect." The more I looked at the portrait, the more satisfied I was. I pointed at it with my little hand. "I'll marry this one." My uncle raised an eyebrow. "Sure, no regrets." I lifted my chin. "Absolutely no regrets. If I regret it, I'll be a dog." My uncle let out an "oh" and added, "He is Marquis of Zhonbei, Lin Huiji." Me, "Uncle, do you think Liwei looks like a dog?" I forced a flattering smile and pointed at myself. My uncle gave me a cold look and snorted softly. "No, the 28th of next month, the wedding will be held." With that, he put his hands behind his back and walked away briskly. Seduction. This is pure seduction. I sighed. Who let me be a little lecher? Before the wedding, my uncle waved his hand and ordered the Ministry of Works to build me a huge princess's mansion. Uncle said that even though I was getting married, I should still have a home of my own. His words moved me to tears. Of course, it was definitely not because the princess's mansion was too luxurious. On the wedding day, I left the palace from my grandmother's Sinning Palace. The Empress personally did my hair. As she combed, she started crying. The Empress and my mother had been close friends in their maiden days. After my mother passed away, she treated me as her own daughter. People in the capital said that Princess Changning was equal to a princess, or even better than a princess, and it was true. When I was little, I got to choose all the rare and interesting things first. Only the leftovers were sent to the younger brothers and sisters in other palaces. I looked at the tearful Empress in the bronze mirror. I patted the back of her hand gently, feeling sorry for her. "Your Majesty, Tilda Liwei's marriage is a happy occasion. Don't be sad. In the future, if you miss me, remember to send me a letter. Liwei will also come back to see you often." She wiped the tears from her face. Her voice choked. "Why would I be sad? Your Majesty is happy, overjoyed. Our little naughty Liwei has finally grown up." As she spoke, her eyes fell, and she began to miss my mother. If Pingyang were still here, she would definitely be crying harder than I am. "Liwei, remember, even after you get married, Your Majesty and the Emperor will always be your backers. We will never let anyone look down on you." I nodded heavily, my voice choked. My eyes also couldn't help but get wet. When I got married, my uncle specially sent the imperial guards to escort me. Along the way, red lanterns led the way, gongs and drums roared, and the scene was extremely lively. The 8-person sedan chair carried me steadily to the Marquis of Junbei's mansion. When I got off the sedan chair, I almost tripped over the heavy wedding dress. I was so scared that my wedding veil almost fell off. Fortunately, a pair of big hands supported my shoulders. After standing steady, the person in front of me stretched out his hand. Amidst the noise, that clear and steady voice gave me a great sense of security. "Hold my hand, and you won't fall." I lowered my head and looked through the gap in the veil, making out the hand in front of me, although it wasn't as fair and smooth as those of the noble young masters in the capital. The hand with thin calluses was long, broad, and very nice-looking. Big hand holding small hand, he squeezed my hand and asked in confusion, "Why is your hand so small?" This trivial remark made my face turn red. I uncomfortably tried to pull my hand back, but he held it tightly in his. The man's soft laughter sounded in my ear. "Once I hold it, I won't let go." Then he led me forward slowly. The brazier at the entrance of the Marquis's mansion was burning brightly. I was a little afraid to step over it. Lin Huiji noticed my embarrassment. Without a word, he put one arm around my waist and lifted me over in one go. Before I could be surprised, I was steadily put on the ground. "Let's go, my lady." After paying homage to heaven and earth, Princess Changning, Qin Liwei, became the wife of Marquis of Junbei, Lin Huiji. Inside the bridal chamber, the candlelight flickered. I had woken up at the 3rd watch today. The bridal chamber was quiet, making me yawn several times in a row. I was so sleepy that I could barely open my eyes. When I nodded my head, the heavy phoenix coronet on my head almost broke my neck. That yawn almost cost me my life. Suddenly, the door was gently pushed open. Lin Huiji walked slowly towards me with steady steps. He lifted my wedding veil. I looked up. The man in front of me was wearing the same red wedding robe as me. Under his heroic eyebrows and straight nose, the corners of his thin lips curled into a smile. He looked just like a male goblin. I was a little dumbfounded. He looked good enough in the portrait. But now that I saw the real person, I truly thought, my uncle has excellent taste. He didn't fool me. This is indeed an unparalleled beauty. Lin Huiji leaned slightly forward, his eyes staring straight into mine. "Is my lady satisfied with her husband?" I quickly averted my gaze, my face red, and stammered, "And not bad." Lin Huiji chuckled. "That's good." He looked at the complicated hairpins and coronet on my head. His voice was gentle, heavy. I nodded and immediately complained, Tilda, so heavy." He was amused by my appearance, shook his head helplessly, and raised his hand to take off the coronet. Then he took off the hairpins, and my coiled black hair instantly fell loose on my chest. After putting down the coronet, he turned to the table, picked up a glass of wine, and handed it to me, the wedding wine. After drinking the wine, I went to the side room to wash up. After a busy day, when I took off the layers of wedding clothes, my back was soaked. The maids in the side room had already prepared the bath water. After taking a comfortable bath, I was about to get dressed when I remembered I had forgotten to bring clean underclothes, but I couldn't put on the dirty ones again. I gritted my teeth and called out to Lin Huiji, "Marquis, Marquis." Lin Huiji came in response. He walked straight up to me without the slightest hesitation, scaring me into covering my chest tightly and submerging myself in the water. "Can you get me a clean undergarment?" He looked down at me, stunned for a moment, then replied in a hoarse voice, "Yes," but when he handed it to me, he didn't bring the underbodice. I hesitated and said embarrassedly, "You forgot the underbodice." Lin Huiji frowned in confusion. "What underbodice?" "That, the bellaband." He laughed. "It's fine if you don't wear it." As soon as he said that, I felt my whole body burning. Realizing his vulgar remark, I glared at him coquettishly. "I want to wear it." He didn't reply, just smiled and turned around. He walked slowly to my wardrobe and took one out of the box. "What color do you want?" My face was red, and I muttered shyly, "Whatever." He handed me a light green underbodice. His big hand holding the delicate green underbodice looked inexplicably awkward. I quickly reached out to take it. He crossed his arms and stared straight at me. We stared at each other. "Get out quickly." He turned around. I thought he was going to leave, but instead, he undid his own clothes. His strong waist was completely exposed, but the ferocious scar on his back shocked me. Before I could react, he stepped directly into my bathtub. The overflowing water splashed out with a crash. His action made my face burn with shyness. How could someone be so inappropriate, inside the bathtub? I didn't dare to move an inch. Still, watching a handsome man bathe was quite pleasing to the eye. After a long while, he finished washing. He stood up directly. I was almost scared to death. I quickly covered my eyes. You put your clothes on." He didn't speak, just got out of the bathtub. After a while, his voice sounded behind me. "I'm dressed." Only then did I put down my hands. He walked up to me, the sash around his waist tied loosely. Most of his chest was exposed. This was not dressed at all. How shameless. He held my clothes in his hand. "Does my lady want to wash again?" I shook my head. "No, get out." "I'm going to get dressed." As I spoke, I reached out to snatch the clothes from his hand, but he held them high with one hand. I glared at him. Then I saw a mischievous smile on his face. "My lady is tired today. Let your husband help you." When helping me get dressed, he was quite proper. His big arm encircled my waist, and he slowly tied the sash at the back of my underbodice. Then he personally helped me put on my undergarment. If it weren't for his heavy breathing and the gaze that seemed to want to devour me whole, making my heart race, his service would have been quite good. Once I was properly dressed, I was about to leave when he lifted me up by the waist. I screamed in surprise and quickly wrapped my arms around his neck. He carried me to the bed. His tall figure trapped me beneath him. His scarlet eyes stared straight into mine, and he asked in a hoarse voice, "I want to kiss you, my lady. May I?" I nodded as if possessed. He immediately leaned down and captured my lips. It was as if he wanted to eat me alive. I was kissed until I couldn't breathe, and my hands weakly beat against his chest. Only then did he reluctantly let me go. I gasped for fresh air, and when I saw he was about to continue, I quickly turned my head, pushed him away, and complained, "You're so heavy." He chuckled softly, directly grabbed my slender waist, rolled over in one smooth motion, and pulled me on top of him. I was sitting on his lower back and abdomen. "My lady is quite light," he said. Clearly, he was the one taking the initiative, yet I was the one feeling embarrassed. "It's your turn to kiss me now." His voice was like magic, luring me to lower my head and peck his lips intermittently. He watched me with burning eyes, not moving at all, making me feel uncertain. "Isn't this how you kiss?" He laughed, reached out, and cupped the back of my neck. "It should be like this." He kissed me like a dog, leaving my lips swollen and tender. The clothes I had just put on were already loose and disheveled. I touched my lips with a hint of resentment. "How could you, Tilda? They're all swollen now." His hands wandered freely over my body, and I didn't know if he was listening to me. Slowly, the clothes on my body were stripped off until only my underbodice remained. Before I could react, even my underbodice had become loose and slipping. By the dim candlelight, my rounded curves were half hidden, half revealed. If the light were brighter, anyone would have seen my face, red as blood. Lin Huiji's body was burning hot. When he pressed me down, I clearly felt, recalling the scene in the side room, my body couldn't help but tremble. Before leaving the palace, the nanny had shown me many erotic paintings, and kindly reminded me, "The Marquis is a military man. Never let him have his way completely. If it hurts, be sure to tell him." I quickly reminded him in a trembling voice. "Why you? Be gentle, don't be reckless." His voice was hoarse beyond recognition. He replied with a faint yes. Who would have thought that at the critical moment? An anxious voice came from outside the door. "Marquis, the barbarians from the northern border are invading. An urgent 800 Li dispatch. His Majesty summons you immediately." I didn't even need to look to know that his face must have turned pitch black. I let out a snort of laughter. In retaliation, he bent down and bit my shoulder lightly. It wasn't too hard, but it still hurt a little. Not hearing a response, the person outside began to knock on the door. He pulled the quilt over me. "Wait for me." He got up, put on his clothes in a hurry, walked to the door, opened it, and stepped out. Just as I thought he wouldn't come back, after a long while, he returned, wearing his armor. He knelt on one knee beside the bed, held my face, and kissed me. Wait for me to come back. Looking at his attire, I knew he was leaving for battle. Are you leaving now? He nodded. I pouted unhappily. Lin Huiji. I'll wait for your triumphant return. Good. Before leaving, he even casually tucked my light green underbodice into his arms. I cursed him silently as a lecher. After Lin Huiji left, only 2 masters remained in this vast marquis's mansion. One was Lin Huiji's mother, old Madame Kui. The other was Lin Huiji's 4 or 5-year-old son, Lin Jiyu. Old Madame Kui was from the noble Kui clan of Bowling. After marrying the late Marquis Lin, she gave birth to 3 sons, each outstanding in their own right. Back then, the Lin family was the most prominent noble family in the capital. Unfortunately, when Lin Fuchen was 17, all the male members of the Lin family were killed in battle. Only Lin Huiji and old Madame Kui were left to support the Marquis's mansion. No one could have imagined before that the 3rd son of the Lin family, who was used to holding a writing brush, would one day abandon his studies to join the military, pick up the swords and spears of his father and brothers, and restore the Lin family's glory, becoming the jade-faced Yama that made the barbarians tremble with fear. To be honest, when I heard all this, I really admired him. At such a young age, having lost his father and brothers, he did not flinch at all, but firmly chose to continue the path they had left unfinished. According to the servants in the mansion, old Madame Kui was very easy to get along with. And the young master was also very well behaved and polite. I thought I wouldn't have to worry too much about getting along with them, but I still got up early. After all, it was my first day as a new daughter-in-law in the mansion. After tidying myself up, I immediately went to old Madame's courtyard. When I saw her, I was stunned. Although she was only in her 50s, her hair was completely white. When she saw me enter, she quickly smiled and greeted me warmly, just as the servants had said, without the slightest hint of arrogance. After offering tea, old Madame held my hand, her face full of guilt. I've made you suffer, she said. I shook my head with a smile and comforted her. Li Wei is not suffering. The Marquis is fighting for the people of Great Yang. Li Wei should be proud of him. Old Madame smiled with satisfaction, and quickly waved to the young master. Jiyu, come quickly, meet your mother. Only then did I notice Lin Jiyu, who had been standing quietly aside without speaking. He walked up to me, his little face tense, and called out loudly and politely, "Mother." The little guy looked 5 parts like Lin Huiji, but he was fair and tender, so cute that I couldn't help but want to pinch his cheek and dote on him. I could tell at a glance that when he grew up, he would definitely be a very handsome young man, who would capture the hearts of countless young girls. I've always loved beautiful appearances, so seeing this little guy made me happy. I didn't have to go through the pain of childbirth to have such a beautiful son. How wonderful. I quickly took the gift I had prepared for him from the maid's hand, a pure gold lock pendant. When I put it around his neck, I took the opportunity to pinch his cheek. Do you like it? It was soft and squishy, such a nice feeling. He nodded shyly. I like it very much. Thank you, mother. Old Madame smiled and said, our Jiyu finally has a mother now. Hearing this, I looked at Lin Jiyu. He was staring at me carefully, pursed his lips, and took out a jade pendant from his bosom to give to me. A gift for you. I was stunned, quickly reached out to take it, and examined it carefully. The jade pendant was shiny with oil, obviously a beloved item he often held and played with. I smiled at his nervous expression, patted his head, and said, thank you, Jiyu. Mother likes your gift very much too. The little guy's expression relaxed slightly, and a faint, imperceptible smile appeared on his lips. Then he turned around and sat down properly on a stool nearby, quietly watching me chat with his grandmother. Old Madame handed over the keys to the mansion's management and Lin Jiyu to me, and then retired to the Buddhist hall to pray in peace. Lin Jiyu was such a well-behaved and obedient child, hardly like a 5-year-old. In the month since I married into the mansion, he came to pay his respects to me every morning, never slept in, never fussed about food, and was very polite. I adored him to bits. What did Lin Huiji do to deserve such an angelic son? Everyone said that being a stepmother was difficult, but I found it surprisingly smooth and satisfying. However, summer was manageable, but as winter approached, having to get up early every day to dress up, was pure torture for me. I've always been a lazy person, and even entrusted the mansion's daily affairs to my personal maids and nannies, but Lin Jiyu, I really didn't know what to do. If I told him not to come, the little guy might think I didn't like him and secretly feel sad, but if he came, I couldn't sleep in every day. It was so frustrating. Later, though, I discovered that I wasn't the only one who felt sleepy every day. One day, I was sorting out account books in the study, and Lin Jiyu was doing his homework assigned by his teacher nearby. The stove in the room kept it warm and cozy, and I accidentally saw the little guy nodding off. I walked over and pinched his cheek. He was startled awake, quickly sat up straight, and continued practicing calligraphy with a stiff little face. I let out a laugh. Lin Jiyu glanced at me cautiously, and before I knew it, his little face was bright red. After getting along with him day and night, I realized he was also a very proud little boy. I sat down next to him, tilted my head to look at him, and deliberately teased him. Jiyu, since you call me mother, you should treat me like your real mother. Other children your age would act coquettishly and ask their mothers for hugs. But you're like a little adult. Mother envies them so much. Tilda. He looked at me without speaking. I continued, with mother, you can sleep when you're sleepy and play when you're tired. He nodded, pursed his lips, and said softly, yes, mother has been sorting out account books all day and is so sleepy. Tilda. Jiyu, accompany mother to take a nap. Okay. Tilda. He twisted the hem of his robe, his little face red. In the end, he nodded. I smiled, picked him up, and his little hands quickly wrapped around my neck. Jiyu can walk by himself. Tilda. No, mother wants to hold you, I said, then carried him back to the bed in my room. I tucked the quilt around him, then lay down next to him. After a while, even breathing came from my arms. We slept comfortably all afternoon. When I woke up, I saw Jiyu staring at me with wide eyes. It seemed he had been awake for a long time. But he hadn't woken me up, he just let me hold him and sleep soundly until I woke up on my own. I hugged him tightly and kissed him. Jiyu is so good. The next morning, early the next day, Jiyu came to pay his respects as usual. This time, I simply lifted him onto the bed and forced him to sleep in with me. When I woke up, the little guy was still sound asleep. Truly, no one in this world enjoys getting up early in winter. I tiptoed out of bed, after washing up. I found him sitting on the edge of the bed, struggling to put on his clothes by himself. I hurried over and patted his head. Let mother help you get dressed. Okay. He shook his head firmly. One should take care of their own things. That serious little expression was so adorable it melted my heart. Jiyu, you don't have to come pay your respects so early from now on. And don't get up at the crack of dawn to read or practice calligraphy either. You must wait until the sky is fully bright before getting out of bed, then come find mother to have breakfast together. After that, you can study with master like you always do. If you don't get enough sleep at your age, you'll never grow tall. Do you want to end up short? He shook his head vigorously, his face showing clear refusal. After hesitating for a moment, he nodded earnestly. Got it, Jiyu understands. I ruffled his hair. Good boy, go wash up. Time for breakfast. He quickly straightened his clothes and trotted off to the side room with the maid to clean up. As days turned into weeks, the tacit understanding between Jiyu and me grew stronger and stronger. Sometimes when he came to see me and found me still in bed, if he had nothing urgent to do, I would pat the mattress, and he would climb up wordlessly to snuggle with me and nap. On rainy nights when thunder roared and lightning flashed, he would show up at my door clutching his pillow, telling me he was scared. He also loved sharing his little joys with me, like when master praised him in class, or when he got top marks on a quiz. At times like that, I would always reward him with a big kiss and shower him with praise. Then he would pout proudly and rush off to tell his grandmother the good news. That's exactly how a child should be, bright and cheerful. As the year drew to a close, a letter from Lin Huiji arrived from the border. His handwriting was bold and powerful, with only 5 words, ****, I am safe. Do not worry, ****. Though it was just a short note, I stared at those words for the entire afternoon. In the days that followed, every month or two, the war horses returning from the frontier brought news of victory after victory. The day Lin Huiji finally returned in triumph was 2 years to the day after our wedding. The people of Wangjing City lined the streets spontaneously to welcome their hero home. I held Zhiyu's hand and stood on the city wall, watching the army march toward us. Zhiyu's eyes were red-rimmed, his lower lip trembling. 2 years of longing poured out in that single moment. I knew, even though he never said a word, that no child doesn't yearn for their father's presence. I stroked his little face and comforted him. Your father defeated the barbarians soundly. They'll never dare invade again. From now on, he'll stay in the capital with us forever. He looked up at me, his eyes wide with disbelief. Really? I nodded firmly. Absolutely true. As the army entered the city, thunderous cheers erupted behind us. Lin Huiji still had to go to the palace to receive his imperial reward, so I knew he wouldn't be home until evening. Chapter 2. But when I led Zhiyu back to the Marquis's mansion, a group of soldiers stood waiting at the gate. The man at the front hurried forward to bow as soon as he saw me. Your Highness, this humble servant greets you. I am the Marquis's Deputy General. I nodded coolly. Are you waiting for the Marquis to return? The Deputy General shook his head. By the Marquis's order, this humble servant has brought Miss Anna to the mansion. I frowned, thoroughly confused. Just then, a beautiful young woman stepped down from the carriage behind them. Her features clearly marked her as a Hu girl from the borderlands. She walked up to me, sized me up from head to toe, and smiled. So you're Lord Lin's wife. You're truly beautiful. I didn't bother to reply, turning instead to the Deputy General with a sharp look. What is the meaning of this? The Deputy General stumbled over his words for a moment, flustered. This Miss Anna is, she's the Marquis's friend. Yes, just a friend. I let out a laugh, equal parts amused and annoyed at his guilty expression. A friend? Zhiyu sensed my anger and tugged at my sleeve anxiously, looking up at me with big, watery eyes. I patted his head, then pulled him along and strode into the mansion without another glance at the group behind us. They exchanged awkward looks, clearly at a loss. Did they take me for a fool, a friend who traveled thousands of miles from the border to the capital, escorted by soldiers and brought directly to the Marquis's residence? I took a sip of water to calm my racing heart. Wow, isn't this the classic cliché straight out of a romance novel? The triumphant general returns from war with a new love from the frontier, then proceeds to torment his poor wife both physically and emotionally. It's not that I'm petty. I've always been a woman who knows her own mind. What's mine is mine, and I will never share anything that belongs to me without my explicit consent, especially not my husband. I slaved away for 2 years managing his household and raising his son, only for him to come home with another woman. Who in their right mind would put up with that? I was absolutely livid. I slammed my teacup down on the table with a loud bang, then stormed into the study to write a divorce letter. Wait, no, a letter of annulment. I was going to divorce him. Once I finished writing, I rushed back to my room and ordered the maids to pack my belongings immediately. Just then, Zhiyu approached me cautiously, tugging at my sleeve. Mother, are you leaving? I froze, suddenly at a loss for words. But then he asked again, his voice soft but determined. Can I come with you? Mother doesn't have any children of her own. One more won't make a difference. I'll be very good. I'll study hard, pass the imperial examinations when I grow up, and take care of you in your old age. Afraid I might refuse, he quickly added, I don't eat much, and I don't need new clothes. I can even copy books for my classmates to earn money to support you. Mother, I couldn't help but laugh at his earnest little face. Pinching his cheek gently, I'd managed Lin Huiji's household for 2 whole years. Taking his son with me was the least I deserved, so I waved my hand decisively and took Zhiyu with me back to my princess's mansion. When we pushed open the door, Zhiyu's eyes went wide with amazement. I put my hands on my hips, bent down to meet his gaze, and said proudly, Zhiyu, Mother is Princess Changning. I'll never let you go hungry or go without new clothes. He nodded his head vigorously, his eyes shining with excitement. That night, a loud knocking echoed through the princess's mansion gates. The steward rushed in to report breathlessly, Your Highness, the Marquis is here. I was lying on the couch, reading a romance novel. I shifted into a more comfortable position and replied lazily, Tell him I'm not seeing anyone. Lock the gates tightly." A moment later, the steward returned, even more flustered than before. "Your Highness, the Marquis is climbing over the wall." "Drag him down and throw him out," I snapped. The steward wiped the sweat from his brow and scurried out of the room trembling. "And keep the door closed. Don't let anyone disturb me again," I called after him. But it wasn't long before my bedroom door was pushed open. I sighed irritably, not even looking up from my book. "Didn't I tell you not to bother me?" Footsteps drew closer, but no one spoke. Finally, I set my book down and looked up. There stood Lin Huiji, looking tired but unyielding. I let out a cold laugh. "Didn't you see my letter of annulment?" He nodded, but dodged the question entirely. "Why do you want to divorce me?" I snorted, my tone dripping with sarcasm. "Shouldn't you be asking yourself that?" "Ask myself what?" He took another step forward, closing the distance between us. I leaned back, shrinking into the couch slightly. "Why, has your little Who girl not satisfied you enough?" He suddenly burst out laughing, a warm, genuine sound. So my lady was jealous. I turned my head away, refusing to meet his gaze. He reached out and gently tilted my chin up, forcing me to look at him. "Anna is just my friend. There is nothing between us, nothing at all." I stared into his tired eyes, then pursed my lips and pressed on. "Is she staying at the Marquis's mansion right now?" "I'll arrange for her to move to another residence tomorrow," he replied immediately. I pushed him away with all my strength. "Oh, so you plan to keep her hidden away outside?" Lin Huiji. A real man should be honest and upright. He stumbled back a few steps, clutching his shoulder and hissing in pain. He didn't say a word. My anger faded instantly, replaced by concern. "You're hurt." He looked at me, nodding and then shaking his head in quick succession. He looked so pitiful that all the harsh words I'd planned to say died on my lips. "Go back to your mansion and find a doctor," I said softly. He sighed deeply. "It's late. I have night blindness, I can't see anything in the dark." "All the doctor's clinics are closed by now." "Then how did you get here?" I asked, confused. He didn't answer, only grunted in pain as he lifted his hand to show me the blood seeping through his bandages. "My lady, my wound has reopened." I frowned, then sighed in resignation. Enough was enough. I pulled him over and pushed him down onto the bed. "Take off your clothes." He froze, looking flustered. "I haven't bathed since I returned. Can we wait until later?" I couldn't help but laugh at his reaction. "Don't get any wrong ideas. Take off your clothes, I'm going to rebandage your wound properly." He quickly stripped off his outer robe, revealing his strong, muscular torso crisscrossed with scars, old and new. The bandages on his shoulder were soaked with blood, a stark red against the white cloth. I sucked in a sharp breath at the sight. He met my gaze, then quickly pulled his robe back to cover the scars, his voice soft with apology. "Did I scare you?" I sat down in front of him and carefully unwrapped the dirty bandages. The wound underneath had scabbed over, but the edges were red and swollen, oozing pus, no doubt from wearing his heavy armor during the long journey back to the capital. I frowned and stood up, fetching a basin of warm water from the side room to clean the blood and pus from around the wound. When my mother was ill years ago, I'd apprenticed myself to the Imperial Hospital's chief physician, hoping to cure her someday. So I was more than capable of tending to his injuries. I retrieved a small knife from my medical kit, sterilized it in wine, then gently cut away the infected scab. I cleaned the wound thoroughly with clean gauze, then applied a generous amount of precious golden healing ointment. "Why didn't you ask the Imperial physicians to look at this when you were at the palace?" I asked, my voice softening with concern. When I reported to His Majesty, he was so delighted that he kept me talking for hours. He explained, "By the time I left the palace, it was already dark. I just wanted to get back to you as quickly as possible." My hands paused mid-bandage as I shot him a skeptical look. "You mean you were in such a hurry to get back to your little Who girl, afraid I'd bully her?" He chuckled softly, then reached out to wrap his hand around mine. "During the winter campaign, our army fought a brutal battle against the barbarians. I was seriously wounded and lost consciousness. My soldiers hid me under a pile of their own dead to protect me. It was Anna who dug me out from under that mountain of corpses. I offered her gold and silver as a reward, but she refused to take any. She only asked one thing, that I bring her to the capital when I returned. She told me that when she was young, she fell in love with a boy who said he was from Wangjing, so she begged me to bring her here to find him. I fell silent, my anger melting away as I listened to his words. I was wrong not to tell you about her beforehand, my lady, he continued, his voice sincere. I'm sorry for causing you such pain, and that deputy general of mine is useless at explaining things. I'll make sure to punish him severely when I get back. I pinched his waist playfully, unable to stay mad any longer. Is that any way for a marquis to act, so petty? He smiled, his eyes crinkling with warmth. Yes, I'm petty, but my lady has a heart as big as the ocean, so will you forgive me? I pretended to think for a moment, then said with a huff, we'll see how you behave from now on. He left me for 2 whole years and only sent 1 letter to say he was safe. What kind of husband does that? Once I finished bandaging his wound, I noticed he was still sitting on my bed, not moving an inch. Bandage is done. Why aren't you leaving? He looked at me, his voice soft. I have nowhere to go. Mother said if I don't bring you back, I'm not allowed to go home either. I laughed angrily. So he was playing the rogue with me. I ignored him and turned to leave, but he grabbed my wrist and pulled me into his arms in one swift motion. What are you doing? He didn't answer, just nuzzled my neck gently. My lady is magnanimous. Please let your husband stay for the night. I pushed him away in disgust. You smell terrible. Stop nuzzling me. He quickly let go of me. I got up and ordered the maid to bring hot water for a bath. In the bathing room, Lin Huiji was in so much pain he couldn't even hold a cloth, looking at me pitifully, helpless. I had no choice but to act as his backwasher. The shameless man didn't even blush after I washed his back, he just stared at me. I threw the cloth aside, my face burning red with embarrassment. Finish the rest yourself. He looked at me, pursed his lips, and said softly, if the wound gets wet, it will hurt. Reluctantly, I closed my eyes, my face still red, and quickly wiped his body. As I wiped, I felt his chest vibrate slightly. I looked up and saw he was holding back laughter, so he was deliberately teasing me. I threw the cloth into the water and turned to leave. He quickly climbed out of the tub, put on his clothes, and chased after me, his sash still untied, trotting along behind me like a puppy. My lady, I'm sorry. I pushed him away. Stay away from me. He spread his arms. I'm clean now, no more smell. I'm as fragrant as you are. Smell me. I won't smell you. I pushed him toward the door. Go sleep with your son. Then I slammed the door shut, afraid of making me angry again. He stood outside the door for a long time without saying a word. In the end, he went to find Jiyu. I slept soundly in the middle of the night when a small figure slipped into my arms. I didn't need to guess it was Jiyu. I pinched his earlobe. Why did you come to find mother? He snuggled closer to me. Jiyu doesn't like sleeping with father. He put his arm on my stomach, and I could barely breathe. I smiled and said nothing, holding Jiyu tightly as we slept through the night without dreams. The next morning, Lin Huiji was summoned to the palace early again. My aunt also sent a message saying there would be a palace banquet today to celebrate the army's triumphant return. In the evening, as I held Jiyu's hand and walked to the palace banquet, Jiyu looked around curiously and asked, "Is this where mother grew up?" I nodded, then shook my head. Sort of. Mother lived in many places when she was little. My father had also been a general guarding the border. When I was a child, I often went to the border with my mother to visit him and the soldiers, so compared to other noble young ladies confined to their boudoirs, I had seen much of the world. Unfortunately, when I was 8 years old, my father was killed in battle. After that, my mother fell into deep sorrow and illness. After my mother passed away, my uncle took me to the palace to live with my grandmother. No one ever took me to see the great rivers and mountains again. I sighed and stroked Jiyu's head. Let's go, your father and the other soldiers are waiting for us. As we spoke, I saw Lin Huiji standing ahead of us. He called out loudly, "Jiyu, father's here to pick you up." He opened his arms, waiting for Jiyu to run to him. Jiyu froze, then pulled my hand and looked up at me, hesitating. I smiled and shook my head helplessly. "Go on." His face lit up instantly. He ran over joyfully and threw his arms around Lin Huiji's neck. Lin Huiji lifted him up effortlessly, holding him in one arm, looking at him like this. He didn't seem at all like someone who was too injured to even bathe himself. He was just pretending to be pitiful to gain sympathy. I walked over and glared at him, snorting coldly before walking ahead without a word. He had such a thick skin, my cold shoulder didn't bother him at all. He caught up, putting one arm around me and holding Jiyu in the other, striding forward confidently. The palace banquet was lively. At the table, Lin Huiji toasted one noble after another, drinking merrily. As for his wound, it seemed he had no intention of letting it heal. After everyone had drunk their fill, I watched as Lin Huiji stumbled toward my uncle. Whether he was truly drunk or faking it, I couldn't tell. I hurried over, afraid he might offend my uncle, but instead of paying respects, he plopped down at my uncle's feet and began complaining. "Your Majesty, I, Fuching, have been away at war for 2 years, neglecting the princess. She's angry with me. When I came home, I found she wanted to divorce me. My heart aches so much." I twitched the corner of my mouth. This rogue, he was even worse than me. My uncle turned his head, pretending not to hear, and waved his hand. "I can't meddle in your family affairs, and I didn't hear a word of this." I let out a snort of laughter. My uncle glared at me angrily. I quickly stepped forward to pull the embarrassing Lin Huiji up. Half of his body leaned on me, making me stumble. After the banquet ended, I planned to take Jiyu back to the princess's mansion. But Lin Huiji's deputy general directly carried the drunk Lin Huiji onto my carriage. I glared at the intoxicated man and kicked him lightly. Jiyu covered his mouth and snickered. I thought he was laughing at his father's embarrassment, but later I found out he had seen through Lin Huiji's fake drunkenness. But by the time I knew the truth, it was too late, because the scoundrel had already climbed into my bed and refused to leave. I was furious, pointing at him and shouting, "You're a marquis. For heaven's sake, how could you lie to me?" And here I was, working so hard to make you sobering soup. He took the soup and drank it in big gulps, then held my hand. The drunkenness was fake, but the wine was real. "Still, it's good to know my lady cares about me." As he spoke, he snuggled closer to me. "My lady, it's time to change my bandage." Before I could agree, he had already taken off his clothes obediently. Helpless, I went to get the medicine. As he slowly put on his clothes after the bandage change, I suddenly noticed a familiar shade of green fall onto the bed. When I saw what it was, I almost exploded with anger. "Lin Huiji, you bastard, you lecher." He picked up my underbodice casually and tucked it back into his arms. Enraged, I lunged forward to grab it, but he pulled me into his arms instead. I gritted my teeth. "Give it back, it's dirty. You can't wear it anymore." What did you do with my underbodice?" He chuckled softly and whispered something in my ear. My face instantly turned bright red. I struggled to get up, but he held me tightly in his arms. "Don't move, my lady, I'm in pain." I was so ashamed by this scoundrel that I couldn't lift my head. Taking the opportunity, he pushed me down onto the bed. Trapping me beneath him, he pulled the quilt over us, then hugged me tightly. "Okay, go to sleep." I couldn't break free no matter how hard I tried. I was really tired from running around all day, so I finally snuggled into his arms and fell asleep. In the middle of the night, half asleep, I felt the hand around my waist start to wander. The tingling, numb sensation made me squirm uncomfortably. Just as I was about to twist my waist, a hoarse voice sounded above me. "My lady, I missed you so much, Tilda. I've washed your underbodice until it's worn out." I was always easily tempted, and before I knew it, I was yielding half-heartedly. The scoundrel quickly loosened all my clothes, kissing me while murmuring, "Our lady has grown up. She knows how to care for her husband now." Beneath his seductive smile, his words were definitely not as innocent as they sounded. Annoyed, I bit him deliberately. "Then I'll make sure to care for you properly." He didn't seem to feel any pain, just laughed hoarsely. Tilda, your temper has grown too." He was relentless, showing no signs of fatigue. Even when the sky outside started to turn white, he had no intention of stopping. I pushed him weakly. "Bastard, I don't want this anymore." "But my lady said you'd care for me properly, didn't you?" I whimpered and twisted my waist, refusing to let him have his way. In the end, he had no choice but to carry me to the side room for a bath, before finally letting me go. When I woke up again, it was already evening. The man beside me was gone. I called out hoarsely. Lin Huiji emerged from the side room, still damp from the bath. The loose collar of his robe revealed ambiguous marks all over his chest. Embarrassed, I turned my head away. He sat down beside me boldly and kissed me. You did this to me. Why are you the one feeling shy now? I glared at him weakly. He burst out laughing loudly. If I didn't go back to the Marquis's mansion, both the big and small troublemakers would stay with me here. Staying at the princess's mansion forever wasn't an option. Old Madam was still at the Marquis's mansion, and I couldn't leave her alone there forever. Just as I was about to pack my things and move back, Anna, who had come back with Lin Huiji, visited the princess's mansion. She looked embarrassed and said, "I'm sorry, Mrs. Lin, it's my fault for making you misunderstand. I just heard from Deputy General Lin that if it weren't for me, you and the Marquis wouldn't have quarreled. Lord Lin likes you, he talks about you often." Realizing her mistake, she quickly waved her hands. "That's not what I meant. Oh no, I don't talk to him often. I swear, Mrs. Lin. Please believe me, children of the grasslands never lie," she said awkwardly, looking at her straightforward, sincere expression. I knew I had been overthinking. I smiled. He already explained everything to me. "I misunderstood you. I should be the one apologizing." She smiled shyly. "I'm glad it's cleared up. Anna is not a bad girl. I would never break up someone else's relationship." I nodded. "I heard from Lin Huiji that you came to the capital to find your beloved. I can help you." Her eyes lit up. She quickly took out a jade pendant from her bosom. "I was only 7 when I met him. My family and I were starving to death, and he asked his mother to save us. He said he was from Wangjing. My mother told me that a life-saving grace should be repaid 100-fold, but I never saw him again. But I knew I had to repay that debt, so I came here to find him." I stared at the familiar jade pendant. "You're in love with him?" Anna lowered her head shyly. "He is my benefactor. Anna only wishes to repay his kindness." I handed the jade pendant back to her. "I know this man. But he is no longer in the capital and he has long been married." The light in Anna's eyes faded instantly, replaced by dejection. Then, is he happy?" I nodded. "He is very happy. He has a wife who loves him and lovely children. Still, he would be overjoyed to know that the little girl he saved has grown up safe and sound." Anna pressed her lips together and bowed deeply to me. "Thank you, Mrs. Lin." I looked at her and hesitated for a moment. "Are you going back to the border?" She shook her head. "No. All of Anna's relatives died in the war. The Central Plains is beautiful. I want to see more of it." I nodded and returned the jade pendant to her hand. "Wish you a pleasant journey." After Anna left, I couldn't help but sigh with emotion. As the Buddha says, karma is a never-ending cycle. It seemed to be true indeed. The little girl he had saved by chance in his childhood would later go on to save my husband's life. Lin Huiji leaned lazily against the pillar, a faint smile playing on his lips. "So now you've cleared my name, haven't you?" I reached out and pinched his waist only to find his muscles rock hard, unyielding to my grip. "Yes. Our Lord Lin is completely innocent." He pouted playfully. "You wronged me for no reason. You have to make it up to me." I hummed in agreement. "What do you want?" Then, he smiled but said nothing. That night, I didn't even have the strength to lift my hand. The end.